Hi there. So this video is dedicated to all parents who have just received their diagnosis of autism and they still have a lot of questions going through their mind, from what do I do, who do I talk to next, what needs to be done urgently, what can wait, where do I go, where do I get all these services. You know what, I got you. And my name is Nema Lema and welcome to our channel. My son received the autism diagnosis about 7-8 years ago, and I remember during that time I had 1,001 questions. And what I'm going to share with you today are things that I wish somebody would have told me then. So the first thing is, yes, autism is not an easy diagnosis. We should remember to give ourselves grace to be able to go through the emotions. I know that some people usually find it as a relief once they get a diagnosis, because finally they are able to make sense of what is happening in their child's life. But for most people, the autism diagnosis comes with a lot of pain, with a lot of fear, with a lot of frustration. Some even say they go to extent of grieving. Okay? Whatever the emotions you're feeling, they are actually valid. The goal is you're able to get to the acceptance journey. And notice I'm not using acceptance destination, because the journey towards acceptance is the destination. There is no best way of doing it. Whatever you are doing is the right thing. Okay? But the most important thing is try as much as you can to keep your mind above the water. We need you. You are the parents. We need you. Your child needs you. Second thing, which was a game changer for me, was understanding autism. There's a lot of information about autism, and there's a lot of misinformation about autism. It's very important that you are able to get information from an authority in that area. Okay? And that's why, for that reason, we would like you to subscribe to our channel. You need to understand, why is my child behaving the way they are behaving? Personally, that gave me a lot of relief when I got to a point where I was able to see my child behaving in a certain way, and I was able to make sense from their perspective. It made me fit into his shoes. So when he jumps, when he does hand flaps, when he's not able to sit still, I'm able to extend that rest that he's actually trying to regulate himself. With time, you get to even predict the things that your child could do in some certain environments. Okay? I have an online course that explains in detail the behavior of our children on the spectrum in terms of sensory processing, in terms of regulation, and the things that you may need to do to help your child. It also goes ahead to talk about self-care and even how to communicate with these children, whether they're speaking or not speaking. Okay? I'm going to share the link. You can just go to our website, www.autismvoiceforchildren.com, the shop, and you're going to see it there. I'll also post the link in the description box. And the third aspect is the therapy. For all parents who come to me right now because when their children have been diagnosed with autism, look at your child and write all the challenges that you see your child is having. Once you have that list, that's the list you come to see me with. Okay? So that we are able to make a plan on what we are going to do with your child from now. Okay? It's true that our children usually do need therapies, but there are therapies that have to be done before other therapies. So for a child who has issues with attention, you cannot think of speech as a therapy. Okay? Because for someone to be able to do speech therapy, there has to be some level of attention. From my personal experience, most of the time during the toddler years, most of the children on the spectrum struggle a lot with their sensory processing needs. Okay? And this is part of the things that we cover extensively in the online course. Okay? So once you are able to know these are the needs, are the sensory needs of the child, this is the way they process their senses, and this is how they regulate their senses, you are able to start helping your child even at home. The fourth thing is have a centralized communication system. And in this digital era, I always recommend you can have WhatsApp group. And in this WhatsApp group, you're going to, you are the admin, you can put in your pediatrician, then your different therapists, and your teacher if your child is already school going. Okay? And now, depending with even where you are, even your nanny can actually be in this group. The whole idea is Remember, the center is your child. The goal is to make sure that we are able to give your child the best start possible. That's really the goal. And because that's the goal, it's easier when the challenges of this child are discussed in one place where everyone will put in their expertise. Autism is not one of the diagnoses where you are told your child has this, go do this. No, the parent has to be the primary player when it comes to handling their child on the spectrum. The fifth thing is self-care. You have to be in a good place. It's very interesting because as you parent your child on the spectrum, you're going to be pulled left, right, and center. But still, as much as you're pulled left, right, and center, this is the time where you have to be in your best self. Most of the time we are not, but you know what? Even when we are not, we should be able to know when we are not. Every time, every now and then, we have to find a way of bringing ourselves to the center. I always say self-care is something you do every single day. It's not an event. It actually has to be a lifestyle. Self-care starts from physical. I always start with physical because I always say, oh my God, if you have been praying to live long, and now your child has the diagnosis of autism, you have to double those prayers. Okay, so as much as no one really knows when they're going to die, when they're going to, when things will happen, anything can happen really, but you take it upon yourself that to make sure your physical body will not fail you because of your bad habits. So exercise, sleeping well, drinking water, eating healthy, they become non-negotiable. And mental, you need rest. Yes, the things that demand the most from you are the things that need your mind in the most optimum state. You need a positive mindset. After the diagnosis of autism, this is my personal experience, it shifts to become a battle of the mind, the fear and the pain. You may decide to only focus on the fear, they only focus on the negative, but trust me, there's always a silver lining. So it becomes a battle of the mind where you have to change your mind. Your mind has to be transformed that in whatever place you find yourself, you have to shift towards the silver lining. Now, we are not talking about toxic positivity, no. It's a very intentional, acknowledging it's true. This is my reality now. However, there's this other side. And deciding to focus on this other side that is positive. When my child was diagnosed with autism, he had a lot of challenges. Okay? But you know what? I constantly affirmed what I wanted to see. Because I knew my child was not a mistake. Then the spiritual health, this is non-negotiable. We all need God. But when you have a child on the spectrum, my dear, you need God. For you to be able to understand the uniqueness of your child. Autism is such a spectrum. And so no one can tell you the secrets about your child other than the one who created him or her in the mother's womb. Personally, most of the answers to my questions, I found them from a place of prayer. You have to be a person who has a very close personal relationship with God. This has nothing to do with religion. It's about you actually going to God and telling God, hey, you gave me this boy or you gave me this girl. What am I supposed to do? Why are they in my hands and what am I supposed to bring out from them? And God will reveal to you day by day. Your social health, you have to have a support system. Make sure that you are able to ask for help when you need help. You need to teach people how to help you. Tell them exactly what you need them to do or not to do. Okay? And please, when you need to rest, take a rest. Quitting is not an option. This is a lifelong journey. It is okay for you to take a break. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm tired. I just need to rest. It is okay. But just know, because this is a marathon. You can walk, you can sit, but after that, you need to get up and move forward. Okay? Now, when it comes to finances, so you may really need to be very intentional when it comes to the expenses. The priorities may have to shift. Okay? If possible, get an extra source of income. Invest in skills that will pay you later as your child grows. Because trust me, schooling is coming and schooling is not a joke. Okay? Then, even as you do that, there has to be a very fine balance between time and money. When you're parenting a child on the spectrum, you need these two: time and money. I know sometimes you're like, who gives you both time and money? Invest in most of these virtual jobs. There's a way you can be able to hack that. If you're lucky that you have a family of two parents, like both mom and dad are working, then you can be able to negotiate on how best you're going to, at least one of you, at any point in time, there's one parent at home, one parent at home taking care of this child. You realize that getting someone who will truly understand your child the way you understand them is not very easy. Okay? And that's why I always recommend there has to be one parent at home. Even when you have nannies and uncles and aunties, it is okay. The sixth thing is schooling. Now, depending on the time you get to the diagnosis of your child, if it's around 3-4, the next thing you have to do is go for educational assessment. Okay? Now, in the educational assessment, that's when they're going to tell you about whether or not your child has learning challenges. My child has learning challenges, and this has been one of the biggest challenge for me in my journey with autism. I think one day I'll just do a video about it. Okay? So usually once they give you the report, they'll also give you the recommendations, the type of schooling your child can be able to attend, the type of teaching your child will be able to attend. If your child doesn't have major challenges, most of the time they are integrated and you don't need to do anything. But for us who have challenges, there's something called IEP, Individualized Education Plan. It means these children are not able to just stay in class and the teacher's talking and they're able to grasp information. Now, if you have to do an IEP, when you're doing this, please be very open about your child. Okay to say my child can't do this, but they can try to do this. Be very okay. Okay? Do not feel stigmatized, do not feel discriminated. If you feel your voice is not being heard, the voice of your child is not being heard, it is okay to say, I'm not comfortable. Okay? Worst case scenario is even change schools. The normal education as we know it may be a struggle. And that's okay. That's okay. Imagine that is okay. Please embrace your child, because not everyone was designed to go through the school system as we know it. There are so many people who branched off and they are doing extremely well. The key thing is know what your child can do, know what your child is having challenges with, know what is important for your child to learn, even though they have challenges with, but it is important for them to learn to read. It is important for them to learn to read, to learn to write. Okay? So if those things are important and they are having maybe this dyspraxia or they are having this dyslexia, what do you do? How best can we help this child learn? That's the goal of IEP. And once you get those goals, please remember to follow up with your teachers. If your teacher reporting any complaints, try to see are these complaints making sense? Do not just despise them. Do not just deny. Do not just be defensive because this is your child. Please be objective. If you have a good school, they are going to help your child, because at the end of the day, this is all about your child. So now the seventh and the last thing is affirm your child and celebrate wins. As a parent of a child on the spectrum, I've learned to celebrate literally every single thing. I remember my childhood, the first time my child told me, Mommy, I love you. Oh my God, I cried and cried and cried, because for me that felt like literally the heavens opened up and just answered my prayer. It's the little things that make such a huge difference in our journey on the spectrum. Please celebrate and please continue to affirm your child. And this should not be only for children on the spectrum. All our children, let's affirm them that we're expecting great things from them. It does not matter they're on the spectrum or they can speak or they can't speak. These are still children who have a specific purpose they are to fulfill in this life for the young generation. That does not change simply because they have autism diagnosis. And as I said, the only way to answer that question is to ask God, who gave you this child? Because trust me, your child is not a mistake. This used to be one of the biggest concerns in mine. Is my child an error of genetics? The answer is no. Most of our children become victims of their environment, become victims of their circumstances. because somehow we have one definition how people should develop, but that is wrong. See your child. That is true, they are different, but difference does not mean being disabled. Difference is not less. In the difference that they have is where their strength is. Okay? Their uniqueness is their brand. And remember, everything will work for good. Believe that. You may not see it now because your child is just adult, you've just received the diagnosis, but trust me, my son will be turning 10. He can do things that I could not even have thought he was able to do. Okay? It's a journey. Every day, add something small. Eventually, one day you look back at it and you'll be like, oh my God, why was I even worried? Okay? Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.